I retired about 3 years ago, worked a little bit part-time after that, but now I think, fully retired. Worked at the legislature for 40 years, and that's all you need to know.
And we'd been in our old house for about 20 years. We've been married for 40 years, but our house about 20 years, 22.
22 plus, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, before we moved here. Well, our first inclination was our house was too big. Our kids had left and we had too much room, and moreover, we had a really kind of complicated and big yard to take care of, and I complain about that a lot, but actually Joel did most of the work, so. But we decided it was just too much for us right now, and at first we thought we'd move to a small house, another small house, smaller house, and we decided that, but then when you have another house, you still have another roof and another furnace and another, all the appliances, etc.
Another thing is, both of us have been through the experience of having our parents pass away, and then we deal with kind of everything that's left over, which in a lot of cases, a lot of memorabilia came to our basement, so we had a house full of things that we had inherited, but we also knew how difficult it is for kids to then become responsible for all their parents' stuff. And we have not by any means gone through all of the downsizing yet. We're still in that process, but I think we've made a really good stab at it with this move. And so I think it's a long process, but this was one way that we could do that.
Well, I was actually a little familiar with the co-op model because I had some friends that had moved into another building. So I kind of knew the difference between that and a condo or a regular apartment. At first we did think about renting a place, just an apartment, to see how we liked it without being in a home, and we couldn't find an apartment that was big enough for the right amount of money, and then we got this mailing for the American Co-op. And
we also looked at condos, something that would be smaller than where we were. One of the things we found is that first of all, the condo prices just kept going up and up. So we had a couple of places that we were looking at, but they were becoming less affordable. And frankly, the co-op model, where you're essentially sharing equity with a larger group of people and with a management firm, was more affordable for us.
Well, of course, when we first started, we were just having meetings with the other interested prospects and people who had already bought in. And so we just had a model to begin with. But later on, we were able to tour the other building, Gramercy's other building in Anoka, and we were amazed at first of all, how big our unit would be, the one we were most interested in. And the other thing that was so amazing is the enthusiasm of the Anoka people. They came to a couple of our meetings. They were just so excited about their place. And it kind of was contagious, I think, for us.
Yeah. Well, first of all, probably the right question is not the day we moved in, because then we were exhausted. Because moving, even with the best planning, is hard.
Let's say a few days afterwards.
Everything felt good. I mean, and honestly, to this day, we feel so positive about this place. I feel like, and part of it is Gramercy, the company that built this co-op, has a history of building co-ops. It's a family-run business. They work with a particular builder, and they did a beautiful job. So we were pleased with how everything looked, although we kind of, we had seen a model unit. We were hoping for that, but just everything about this, the people that we live with here, the environment around this place is gorgeous, and the building's well made. So what's not to like?
Well, I'll speak for Joel because he goes out biking every morning for a couple hours, which, I mean, he was doing that back in our old house too, but not quite as long. You know, you'd have to come back and mow the lawn, or we can just spend the time outside that we really want to. On a rainy day, there's things to do inside too. So we've got the fitness room, we've got this room, the club room where we see people occasionally.
My 3 words would be peace of mind. One of the things that Peggy alluded to is, you know, when you're a homeowner, which is great. We owned a couple of homes over the course of 40 years, and home ownership is great. You can have your garden, you can do things with your house, but there's always things hanging over your head. Every winter, I was worried about ice dams, about shoveling our very long driveway. I mean, so many things. We lived in a yard that had tons of trees. We took down or had to deal with at least a dozen of them over the years. And so I was always worried about the next one that might fall. So I don't have those worries anymore, and I don't mind it. You know, do I want a garden? Yeah, but I can also rent a community plot, which I haven't done this year, but next year. That's something I'm going to look into. So, yeah, having things about homeownership that aren't hanging over my head is the best part.
And my 3 words would be warm and welcoming. Ever since our first meeting with the prospects and buyers, people have been so friendly and really interesting people too. They've shared a lot about their lives, and everybody has been so easy to get to know. We've had our Friday night happy hours where people just get together to talk about the week and what's happening, and it's just, you see people in the hallways, you say hi. It's not just an anonymous apartment building where you kind of just hide your head and go past people. So that's been just great.
You know, I think about our previous house that we lived in. We did not have an alley, so we didn't have people to talk with across the alley. So we basically had houses on either side. And we had good relationships with those people, but we didn't talk to them very often. As Peggy said, you know, here, whether I'm going down to the garage to get my bike or my car, or if I'm just, you know, coming downstairs for some other reason, I'll often run into somebody here, and we'll just have a short, casual conversation, and it's nice, you know. I just like being part of a community, and that's what's different here.
It's been great to, as I said, we have a craft group that meets on Wednesday mornings. It's so great. You go downstairs, you don't have to drive somewhere, you don't have to, you know, figure out who's going to host the next meeting or whatever, and you can just show up, be here with some people you really like. Of course, for some people, they aren't as interested, or it's the summer so far, so we haven't, a lot of people are up at their lake or whatever, so they aren't around. But I can see in the winter especially where we'll be able to come down here and enjoy some time with other people. It's been great. It really has. When we first made our decision to move here, we thought, okay, you know, because initially it's kind of a steep monthly payment that you have, but most of that is going toward the principal and interest of the general mortgage on the whole property. So it's basically our equity starting to build in our unit, and it has relieved us from so many extra payments that it's kind of even hard to keep track of what you're spending on your house sometimes. And for us, it was also a garden. We had a pool, which was expensive. We had just ongoing maintenance of things, replacing appliances. We just had to replace our dishwasher right before we moved, you know, things like that. And now here, the appliances are included. Somebody else will have to take care of that when that dies. So yeah, it really has made it very clear, easy to budget for. What do we just have this monthly payment, and then beyond that, it's just our own personal expenses.
And Peggy at one point actually did a spreadsheet. The question was, all right, we kind of know what this unit costs, can we afford it? And so what we did was, we knew that cost, and then we figured out, well, what are we spending now for the things that will be included in the new co-op? And I mean, it certainly was better than a break even. I mean, and that was an eye opener to actually put those numbers to paper and to know we can afford this. It's really nothing more than what we're paying now.
And we were very impressed with the guaranteed equity increase every year, which gave us a peace of mind, just like our house did. We knew it was increasing in value over the years. But that gave us a real peace of mind and a very specific amount per year that we can count on. That seems very tied to how much real estate in general goes up per year. So that part of it too was really great for us. This concept might be new to you, how you co-own this building with everybody else, as opposed to just owning your unit. And just look into it and think about, how much peace of mind it can give you that you're sharing this cost with everybody else. The co-op model, I think, tends to make people that are interested in it kind of sort themselves out, and it's the people who really want a good sense of community that buy in. They're very interested in meeting other people, it's your neighbors, it's your neighborhood. You're part of a group that's really trying to do something.
And to anyone who's afraid that once you move into a co-op that you're forced to socialize with people, that's not true. You can hang out with people as much or as little as you want. If you want to be in your own unit and watch TV or watch the world go by out your windows, you can do that. But it really is nice having other people here that are interested in you, care about you. And, for example, not long after we moved in, somebody put up a list and they said, for any cat owners here, is there anybody who would be available to look after somebody's cat? They had a similar list for dogs, if they're going to be gone for vacation. And sure enough, a bunch of people's names went up on the list. So, those are things that are great about being in a place like this with people that are that close by.
First off, our unit itself, while we did downsize a lot, we got rid of a lot of furniture. A lot of our stuff from our old house is still there, our artwork, etc. And the unit itself is spacious enough for us to feel really comfortable in it. We didn't have to sacrifice too much in that. So that's the first thing. And like Joel was saying, having people to talk to, like neighbors, it's just a joy, because we really didn't have that in our old house just because of the way it was situated. So that's my thought about it.
Yeah. One tip is that the place where you see your neighbors the most probably is in the garage. So little did you know that the garage is a great social area. We're at the far end of the garage, and if I go in there and grab my bike and head out, I'm probably going to run into 2, 3, 4 people before I get to the door and leave. And it might just be a hi, or it might be a conversation, but you never know when you're going to run into your neighbors, and that's a good thing.
I would say, I think a lot of people that I know are hesitant to move now, thinking, oh, that's going to be for 10 years from now. That's not where I am. And that might be true if they really, really love their garden and they're improving their home and things like that. But it is not too soon to start downsizing. Honestly, even if you're not going to move tomorrow, start downsizing right now. It takes a long time and it's hard, and ultimately I think, you may stay in your home forever, but if you do have to move or want to move, you know, it might be next year that you're just like fed up. I've had this, my sister is a great gardener. She just this year she's like, I don't want to do it anymore. She hired the next door kid to help her out in the garden. And you don't know that about yourself, that you might just say, oh, this is it. And to be ready with the mindset that, okay, I do want to downsize, I do want to move. And the earlier you start downsizing, the easier it is eventually to make that decision.
I think a lot of people fear downsizing, you know, all these things that they've grown attached to, or just the kind of the seemingly overwhelming nature of dealing with the stuff that you've accumulated. And we get that completely. And we had about 1.5 years leading up to when we moved, so we had a lot of lead time. Peggy read or watched a lot of YouTube videos about people who downsize or get ready to move. And, you know, there are a lot of philosophies that people have, but, you know, a common theme is you keep what brings you joy. And what you quickly find out is that there's a lot of stuff in your basement that does not bring you joy and that you could live without. And it is a process. You do it little by little. Like I said, you don't have to do it all in one fell swoop. You can do some of it after you move. But I'm really glad that we started that process, whether it's your kids' school papers that are in the basement, whether it's my school papers that were in the basement, we've at least taken a first cut at trying to reduce what we've got and to live more simply. I think that's kind of the bottom line.